As a consumer in the United States, I face countless choices of products. So how do I choose the best products? How do I know which product is best for me? In general, I start by comparing the various claims on labels.
There are numerous reasons for choosing one product over another, but the main reason is the claims that the manufacturer makes on the labels. However, these claims may not be accurate and oftentimes are so far from the truth.
There is research conducted so that the claims are not completely random, but the accuracy is questionable. Oftentimes, the manufacturer will make overblown claims that are inferences from the scientific research. The claimed effects are usually not a result of the product itself, but other factors or of the ingredients. A majority of products on the markets that make outlandish claims are not based on actual experimentation. Trial or no trial, the claims still appear on the labels.
When the manufacturer does self-experiment, companies often create trials that are biased towards specific results and will make claims on those biased results. Confirmation bias plays a huge role in the research and development of a product, so any random results that happen to benefit a person will often appear on the labels regardless of whether or not it happens to more than one person. So, this is where the lies on the labels come from.
So I'm thirsty. I walk into the local grocery store, Whole Foods, and I head over to the water section. Generally, I gravitate towards the product which appears to make the best claims, and a brand catches my eyes, Essence Water. As a consumer, it's my first instinct to look at the label and determine if this particular water is what I'm looking for. Essence Water is a pH 10 alkaline water with added organic hibiscus for high antioxidants.
The average consumer might willingly accept the facts without questioning the validity of the claim at hand. Consumers tend to be very accepting and fail to further analyze the claims made on the label. As skeptics, we first must question the logic behind these claims.
So what does it mean? Alkalinity is referring to the pH of water, which is stated at 10 out of 14. The higher the pH, the more alkaline the substance. At a pH of 10, Essence is the most alkaline water currently on the market. An almost contradictory claim made on the label, however, is that Essence is purified water. You see, purified water has a pH of around 5.4. So how can Essence be both alkaline and purified? Upon asking the CEO, Joel Gonzalez, I was told the company starts with purified water and adds a patented mineral blend in order to make it alkaline.
Our doubts begin with the fact that these claims tend to sound too good to be true. Oftentimes, this is the case, and this is where we catch the lie. Another factor that must be taken into consideration is that of the United States Food and Drug Administration's approval. The FDA is an American government agency that protects the public health by ensuring the safety, efficacy, and security of human and veterinary products, drugs, and food. Therefore, if statements are FDA approved, generally the statements are valid.
As I look closer at the Essence Water label, I find a statement in small obscure type that says, "These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, cure, or prevent a disease." When companies make claims like these, they may also include that it has been researched and proven to be true. But how reliable is the research conducted?
This is where we decide to investigate behind these claims. Therefore, we turn to the company's website. There is no actual research done by the company to support the claims on their labels, but there is other research conducted in regard to the ingredients that are added to the Essence Water in this case.
A majority of the research is conducted by outside sources that are not directly related to the company. On their website, they present a detailed explanation and use scientific language as well as some math behind their claims in order to create a conclusion to their findings, all of which was incoherent. For example, Essence claims that for each 10-ounce glass of alkaline water, one's life is extended 6 hours.
Well, doesn't that sound great? With a total of 4 to 5 glasses a day, there are amazing improvements on overall health, according to CEO Joel Gonzalez. The first 4 glasses cancel the acidic waste produced that day, and the 5th glass is needed to reduce old accumulated waste. Based on this, who would not want to buy Essence Water? But as a consumer, I need to be more skeptical of these overblown claims. How is a person able to extend their life 6 hours with 1 glass of water, and how can one prove that their life is even extended? By normal circumstances, there is absolutely no way to predict a person's death, so this claim of extended life is not logical.
Let's focus on the language used in these claims. Should a company advertise with scientific language?
This is a marketing technique that companies use in order to grasp the attention of the consumer because the manufacturer wants to add value to a product. A normal consumer is often searching for the best product around, so they will rely on the claims made on the labels. In the case of the essence water we are looking at, it asserts that it will balance a person's pH level. But is it even necessary for a person's pH to be balanced? Scientific language is being used to persuade the consumers that this is the most useful and advanced product around in its class.
Scientific language is more likely to lure consumers by convincing them of the validity of the claims. So, from the point of view of the manufacturer, using key language is essential in gaining a following. Every company wants to be the next big thing, and language is an effective way of convincing a consumer of a product's superiority.
On the other hand, a company should not advertise using scientific language because it is taking advantage of a consumer's ignorance or lack of knowledge in that area.
Consumers tend to be susceptible to this way of thinking due to a pre-existing belief of a better living through science. We believe anything validated by science must be good for us. Essence Water explicitly uses scientific language on their label to convince consumers that they can change their pH level simply by drinking their water products.
Their website goes on with a lengthy mathematical explanation of how the pH of a normal body would change. But in reality, the pH changes it discusses only affect small amounts of water that circulate throughout the body. There is no way to completely elevate a person's pH level because a person does not consume the same amount of water as their body mass.
As a result, the language used on the label can trick the consumer into buying a product that does not actually benefit them. Therefore, companies should not advertise using scientific language because they essentially lie to their consumers if they are making false or unreasonable claims, which is morally wrong.
A company should also not advertise using scientific language because it is a risk. The risk involves consumers, like us, that will research and analyze the claims made, and this is where the potential factual errors are noticed.
Consumers who find the faults in the claims could publicly denounce the company and may easily share their feelings to the world with today's immediate access to rating and review sites. As a result, the company will lose customers and hope of regaining popularity. Also, without case studies providing each of the claims on a label, a company risks the popularity of being sued, as seems to be the norm in the United States.
Another factor that manufacturers must take note of when putting scientific claims on their labels is the Food and Drug Administration's approval. The claims may be tested by a reliable source such as a doctor, but many times the outlandish claims are not FDA tested or approved. Thus, unless the statements on the labels are approved by this agency, companies should probably not make scientific claims on the labels.
Focusing more on the effects of this type of advertising on consumers, we are presented with another knowledge issue. How does the language a company uses affect our attitudes?
Language can be used to manipulate public opinion. Furthermore, a company takes advantage of the psychological impacts of certain words. Continuing with the example of essence water, one of the first things a person sees on the label is alkaline water with added organic hibiscus for high antioxidants. These words are meant to attract certain consumers, and this will often lead the consumer's interest in it.
What is alkaline water? Most consumers can't tell you, but the fact is that alkaline makes it different, unique. Regardless of whether the consumer understands the label, their attention is caught. Organic hibiscus infusion attracts the consumer even more. Who doesn't want to gain antioxidants from just drinking water? Sure, alkaline water is an attention grabber in and of itself, but the added hibiscus makes Essence unique.
Moreover, the choice in language used on the Essence label definitely affects a person's attitude toward a product. One of the first things that a person sees on the label is that it offers superior nutrition through hydration. The language used here will stimulate a consumer's mind to temporarily consider this product better than its competitors.
At this point, the language used on the label has effectively lured the consumer to look at the product in more detail instead of the other 100 bottles of water on the shelf. The use of power words could lead consumers to have a favorable attitude toward the product since there is a sense of authority established.
Nonetheless, there is one part of the Essence water label that we must not overlook, and that is the pH 10 part. Language plays a huge role in influencing a person's attitude towards a product, and these two letters and two numbers succeed in altering the customer's opinion. The typical person sees this and is intrigued by a claim so radically different from what they would normally expect on a water bottle.
The simple fact of seeing something totally new will lead an individual to have an interested attitude regarding the product. The use of scientific language may serve a role in causing an individual to prefer one product over another because it seems more effective or superior. Language does not work alone. Emotion also plays a role in generating a positive attitude.
Many consumers have a sense of trust for claims on labels that include scientific jargon because of a trust of doctors and the scientific community in general. So emotion may lead individuals to prefer products that include such assertions instead of a product with an unattractive or realistic label. But the effect of language isn't always positive.
One group of consumers that we must not ignore is skeptics. Skeptics do not necessarily have to be experts in an area in order to successfully question any claim. These interesting and rather novel claims will lead a skeptic to investigate behind the rationality of the claim. Therefore, unique scientific claims may actually produce negative attitudes toward a product.
Negative attitudes may also arise from not understanding the language used. This may be a common scenario in this case. Not every consumer knows what the difference is between regular and alkaline water. Furthermore, consumers who do not understand what is being said may feel offended and/or experience a feeling of inadequacy.
Thus, the language used can serve as a barrier to understanding, and this may irritate customers, thus creating apathy, and lead them to have a negative attitude toward the product.
Such interesting claims may lead a consumer astray since the use of scientific language could cause an individual to doubt the truthfulness. Just because a label uses scientific language, that does not ensure that whatever information is presented is actually logical. The scientific claims appear outlandish, therefore they could be unreliable.
As one can tell, the attitudes resulting from language use may go either way, which leads us to a deeper analysis and another knowledge issue. What is it about language that does or does not change how we feel?
Oftentimes the labels on products tell us what we are to expect and what we are to feel. In the case of the essence water, the language on the label may be very relevant to our choice of water or useless in that it is just presenting a bunch of meaningless facts. On the backside of the label, it states how the essence water can improve your pH balance, serve as an antioxidant, and detoxify your system.
The language is reasonably understandable, but the relevance and choice of words utilized to present the information is what determines how we feel. The language presented here may lead us, as consumers, to connect with the label. For example, the antioxidant and detoxification part of the label allows for consumers to quickly find a product that will help them with these two areas.
On the other hand, the content of the label may lead us astray and does not change how we feel. The part about the pH will probably not influence a normal consumer because not many people keep track of their internal pH levels. So this section is rather irrelevant to most people. Because one cannot relate with the content presented, it does not cause an individual to change how they feel. The only benefit from the product is simple hydration, which a person may obtain from any normal water.
Many times, products on their label proclaim that usage will produce certain results. Therefore, the words used will result in a person changing how they feel about a product. Labels are great ways of showing how one product is better than the other since two products of the same class are placed side by side.
Moreover, the discussions made previously lead to a more general knowledge issue. Is it ethical to use scientific language on a product's label to alter a person's perspective?
To answer this question, we'll analyze the different potential arguments using multiple ethical models.
It is very desirable to simply say yes or no to this question, but there are many factors that must be taken into consideration, and specifically, who will benefit from a solution.
Therefore, we will begin with the Platonic ethical model. It is ethical to use scientific language because even though the claims made on labels made are false, the common good of people is addressed since they are protected from the truth. Another reason why it is ethical to use scientific language on labels is because companies are simply advertising their products in a different way, and consumers also benefit from this because they are provided the opportunity to differentiate between different products. Therefore, it is justifiable for companies to use scientific language however they want on their labels.
Even though there may be some benefits supporting how it is ethical to use scientific language in advertising, using the Platonic model as an ethical foundation demonstrates how there are more negative outcomes than positive. The common good of the people is not addressed by allowing companies to freely include scientific language when advertising and on their labels. The general population is being lied to because proper evidence is not provided to the general public to illustrate whether or not the claims on the product are valid. Furthermore, the general population's lack of knowledge in certain areas of science is taken advantage of by using scientific jargon. Therefore, according to Plato's ethical model, it is not ethical for companies to manipulate consumers' minds using scientific language.
The Spinozan ethical model can be used to address this knowledge issue. This ethical model emphasizes the influences of the ego. Focusing on the manufacturers, they seek to attract the most consumers and will do so by any means. Scientific language will often trick the consumer into thinking that they are looking at reasonable claims. In the opinion of the company, it is ethical since it is just a means of advertising with expectations to increase their profits.
Furthermore, these companies are relying on their ego to convince consumers that their product is the best. Companies assert that they will not generate revenue if they do not make some interesting claims on the labels. As a result, companies find a solution by using scientific language on their labels.
Many companies believe that in the real world, success is not necessarily measured by consumer satisfaction, but by the amount of revenue that they generate. Modern companies focus on their own desires and will use scientific language on their labels to attract more customers if they have to. Therefore, using Spinoza's ethical model, companies are justified in their use of scientific language.
This all sounds great to us, but shouldn't the interests of the consumers be taken into account also? After all, it is the consumers that are making the choices to buy products, so shouldn't they be provided with the truth?
Truth is relative to the individual, so the consumer does not have to believe the claims that are being made on the labels. It is up to the individual to investigate, but companies must keep in consideration that there are some consumers who desire to understand what is said. Consumers' emotions are driven by their ego, which leads to their interest in labels that will produce pleasurable results.
However, there are always skeptics, like us, who will have a weird ego and find pleasure in knowing the truth and analyzing how reasonable certain claims are. Consumers are at a minimum need-to-know basis, so the facts that are presented about a product are limited because companies are required by law to present logical statements on their labels. Unless an individual decides to make the efforts and investigate the whereabouts and origins of a claim him or herself, this leads to the overlooked lies on the labels.
The Spinozan ethical model demonstrates how it is ethical for companies to use scientific language on their products because an individual's ego will lead them to believe a claim or be skeptical and search for truth themselves. The ego will determine a person's response to the statements on products, so consumers may either conform or go on a quest for truth.
However, is it ethical? Manufacturers are relying on the human ego's pleasure-seeking drive and need for immediate gratification. By using scientific language to support the claims, it is basically seducing the consumers to think, "Don't worry, we have done the hard work for you. You can rely on what we have told you. It is good and good for you." Therefore, it is not ethical for companies to use scientific language on labels.
Let's take a look at a similar type of product, neurodrinks. The company asserts that certain formulas in their drinks cause them to improve certain aspects of a person's body and life, depending on the drink.
For example, NeuroBliss reduces stress, enhances mood, provides focused concentration, and promotes a positive outlook.
Neurosonic is a beverage designed to deliver sustained focused and revitalized energy with natural, non-habit-forming ingredients and without the roller coaster ride most energy drinks give you. Neurosleep advertises that it provides restful sleep and helps normalize sleep patterns.
Wow, doesn't that sound incredible? I mean, all these would be so helpful for our daily lives, especially being an IB. I mean, come on. However, does NeuroDrink really improve a person's well-being? Not necessarily. The key component to these products is providing an individual with whatever substance they are lacking, so a person will become more alert and attain the desired results that are advertised on the labels.
Let's be real, there must be other alternatives to taking these drinks. The simple alternative is that of proper nutrition, hydration, and sleep. These products supplement a person's daily needs, so this stimulates certain aspects of their lives. But the scientific language used convinces consumers that this is the best product in the markets that could improve a person's life.
As the crazy skeptics we are, we decided to find out from Nero how they substantiated the claimed effects on their products' labels. Luckily, they responded, and we were surprised with what we discovered.
One thing is for sure, Neuro really did their research before putting claims on their labels. Therefore, they successfully used scientific language to influence an individual's perspective on a product. It is undeniable how awesome the proclaimed functions are, so what is the proof behind the declared effects?
Interestingly enough, it was not by magic, but by the main ingredients themselves. Neuro provided us with a structure-function substantiation for the 3 products mentioned beforehand. The information provided for us proved how there are no random ingredients thrown into the drink, and each ingredient plays a role in making the claims on the label a reality. Furthermore, the science supports the validity of the claims.
As we can see, NeuroDrink successfully uses scientific language on their labels and can validate the claims that they make on their products. Effective and proper use of scientific language on labels is ethical and should be allowed because both the consumer and the manufacturer are benefiting from the product.
Which brings us to our next and final example, which I regret to say is not as successful in expressing their thoughts. One day, I was walking around the grocery store and I came across a very, very interesting label. The label said that the product contains all natural artificial flavors.
Can you spot something wrong with this statement? Yes? No? Well, I'll help you out on this one. There is definitely something wrong with both the label and the manufacturer. This makes no sense because the manufacturer is trying to present a scientific fact about the ingredients and they make this mistake.
I wonder who the genius was who thought of putting that on the label, because there is really no logic behind the statement, so this misuse of language will most likely be noticed by the consumer. This demonstrates how the use of scientific language on product labels must be carefully monitored in order to understand what a product offers. The best bet a company has in regard to this knowledge issue of scientific language on product labels is to just avoid using this scientific jargon in general, because there is way too much room for error.
Unfortunately, this concludes our discussion on lying labels.
Thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of your stay with the International Baccalaureate program.